the legal torture house hidden in America.
The McKamey Manor.
We've all been to a haunted house. You scream, you laugh, and deep down you know, it's all pretend. That's what makes it fun, right? But imagine walking into a haunted house where that safety net doesn't exist. Where the fear doesn't fade, it intensifies. Imagine a place that learns your fears, your phobias, your limits, and turns them into reality. It sounds like something from a horror film, a twisted experiment someone dreamed up. But this isn't fiction. This place exists. Hidden behind an ordinary fence in America, there's a so-called extreme haunted attraction that people whisper about. A place that's been compared to torture, yet has a waiting list thousands long. People enter thinking they can handle it, but no one ever has. A $20,000 prize if you can make it to the end, and a challenge so brutal that no one ever has. It's not a Hollywood set or an abandoned asylum. It's a quiet, plain-looking property tucked away in rural Tennessee, a place you could drive past without a second glance. But behind that unmarked gate is something darker than any Halloween attraction. Its name is McKamey Manor. Created by a man named Russ McKamey, this so-called experience began years ago in San Diego as a haunted house like any other. But over time, it evolved, or descended into something far darker. There are no monsters or actors here, just real people being forced to live through their worst nightmares. Before you even step inside, you're handed a 40-page waiver that gives McKamey permission to do almost anything to you. Participants have been bound, submerged, shaved, humiliated, their minds pushed far past breaking point, and yet, they sign up willingly. Some see it as the ultimate test of endurance, a badge of bravery. Others just want to prove they're unbreakable, but once you're inside, none of that matters. Because here, you don't get to decide when it ends. No one has ever lasted long enough to win the prize money, and the people who've tried say the same thing. It's not a haunted house. It's a nightmare that doesn't stop when you scream, "I quit." You're told to meet at a secret location. Cameras are already rolling, documenting your every move. A van pulls up. Someone steps out, wearing gloves and a camera strapped to their chest. You're blindfolded, your hands are zip-tied, and a voice whispers in your ear, "You can still back out." But you don't. And that's the last real choice you'll make for a very long time. When the blindfold comes off, you're already inside McKamey Manor. The light burns your eyes for a second, and before you can adjust, cold water is thrown over your head. This isn't a haunted house. There are no monsters hiding behind fake walls. Everything is real. The cold, the fear, the smell of rot and damp concrete. Everything. You're shoved to the floor, made to crawl through mud that smells faintly of blood. Hands grab your shoulders, voices yell commands. You don't know who's talking or why. Every instinct screams to run, but your legs won't move fast enough. And that's when you realise this isn't about scaring you. It's about controlling you. Participants who've made it inside describe scenes that sound more like military interrogation than horror entertainment. They've been waterboarded, force-fed unknown substances, and locked in coffins filled with insects. Some are submerged underwater until they panic, their cries ignored as the cameras zoom in closer. Others are shaved bald, covered in fake blood or made to eat their own vomit. It's not performance art. It's not a prank. It's raw, deliberate psychological torture disguised as an experience. Russ McKamey films every moment. He says it's to protect himself from lawsuits. But to the participants inside, it feels more like a twisted trophy collection. One survivor, a woman named Amy, managed to last longer than almost anyone else. In an interview, she said, "It's not a haunted house. It's a torture chamber. You think you're prepared, but you're not. You can't be." She said she was buried alive, slapped, and repeatedly dunked underwater. Every time she screamed the safe word, Russ would ask, "You really want to quit?" Another participant claimed she tried to quit almost immediately, but the torment kept going. "I wanted to stop," she said, "but they wouldn't let me. They laughed. They told me it wasn't over until Russ said so." The footage backs them up. In several leaked videos, participants cry for help, while Russ and his crew shout at them to man up or keep going. But not everyone agrees that McKamey Manor crosses the line. There are those who defend it, often former fans or people who see it as the ultimate challenge. They argue that you sign the waiver, You know what you're getting into. They say it's about consent, about testing your limits, that no one forces you to go in. Russ himself insists it's all mind games. He claims no one is ever truly hurt, that everything is psychological. He even says it's a movie you star in, where the monster is you. But the bruises, the broken teeth, the emotional scars, they tell a different story. Imagine this. You're trapped in a dark room, your hands bound, you're breathing shallow. You can't tell what's real anymore. Someone whispers your name, and you realise they've been watching your interviews, reading your fears, memorising what terrifies you the most. Because that's how McKamey Manor works. Before entering, every participant goes through a detailed psychological screening. They talk about their phobias, spiders, drowning, confinement, thinking it's part of the prep process. But what they don't realise is that those confessions become ammunition. Terrified of drowning, you'll be submerged until your lungs burn, afraid of tight spaces. You'll wake up buried under dirt. Claustrophobic? You'll be trapped in a coffin with bugs crawling over your skin. It's not random, it's personalised torment. Some describe hallucinating inside. One participant said he was convinced he saw his own death, fake blood everywhere, people screaming, "He's gone," before realising it was all staged to break him mentally. Another remembers hearing laughter echoing through the walls as he gasped for air, begging for it to stop. By the time they're released, most participants are unrecognisable, faces swollen, clothes torn, covered in mud and tears. Russ congratulates them, smiling for the camera as if it were all just a prank. Some call it art, others call it evil. But even among those who defend McKamey Manor, there's an unspoken truth. No one leaves the same. Whether they last 5 minutes or 2 hours, every participant walks out shaken, dazed, sometimes even traumatised. And despite the $20,000 prize promised to anyone who finishes, no one ever has. Which raises a chilling question. If no one can win, if everyone eventually breaks, then maybe the point isn't to win at all. Maybe the point is to watch you lose. Every story has two sides, and in the case of McKamey Manor, those sides couldn't be further apart. On one hand, there's Russ McKamey, the mastermind behind the manor, who insists it's all smoke and mirrors. To him, it's not torture, it's theatre. He claims that no one is ever truly harmed, that it's all mind games, a test of psychological endurance where fear is the real weapon. "It's entertainment," he's said in countless interviews. "People beg me to get in." He even records every single experience, supposedly to protect himself. Proof, he says, that everything inside is perfectly legal. But then there are the people who actually went inside. Their stories tell a very different tale. Survivors have described being pushed far beyond fear, to the point of genuine physical and psychological breakdown. Some recall begging to quit, only to be mocked or ignored. Others claim the torture starts before they even sign the waiver, meaning any consent is already meaningless by the time the paperwork is done. That's where the legal grey area begins to twist into something darker. Russ hides behind the idea of consent, that if you sign the waiver, you agree to whatever happens. But critics argue that consent can't exist under duress, especially not when you're disoriented, terrified, or already being restrained. They see the waiver as a shield, one that lets McKamey play God without consequence. Online, the debate gets even louder. Reddit threads are filled with horror stories from people who claim they've seen or experienced things that would never fly in any regulated attraction. Some say the mind game defense doesn't hold up when there's bruising, blood, and psychological trauma involved. And then there's the so-called prize, the legendary $20,000 reward that no one has ever claimed. The deeper people look, the clearer it becomes. Maybe that's the point. Because if someone ever got close to finishing, all Russ would have to do is crank up the suffering. Push them just a little further. It's an unwinnable nightmare dressed as a challenge. Russ, of course, denies this. He insists it's all exaggerated, that no one really wants to win. They just want the thrill, the fear, the bragging rights. But that explanation doesn't sit right with many. Not when footage and first-hand accounts paint a picture that looks less like performance art and more like a real-life endurance of cruelty. So, is McKamey Manor a test of bravery or a front for abuse? Is Russ a showman or something much darker hiding behind the words mind games? Depending on who you ask, McKamey Manor is either the most extreme haunted house in the world, or the closest thing to legal torture that America has ever allowed. So why do people sign up for something like McKamey Manor in the first place? Why would anyone willingly step into a place where they know they'll be hurt, humiliated, and pushed to their breaking point? The answer lies in something deep within human psychology, our strange relationship with fear. Fear is primal. It keeps us alive, sharp, aware. But for some, fear is also addictive. It's the rush of adrenaline that makes your heart race, the thrill of testing your limits and walking the edge of danger without actually dying. Roller coasters, horror movies, haunted houses, all of it scratches that same itch. But McKamey Manor, that's fear stripped of safety nets. It's the thrill of terror taken to its absolute extreme. Some psychologists call this phenomenon voluntary trauma, people seeking controlled chaos as a way to feel alive in an increasingly numbed-out world. We watch horror films that get gorier every year, play survival games that push realism to new limits, and scroll through true crime stories with morbid fascination. McKamey Manor feels like the next logical and disturbing step in that cultural obsession. But here's the question that lingers. How far is too far? When does facing your fear turn into feeding someone else's cruelty? When does the line between consent and exploitation blur beyond recognition? The Manor forces us to confront those questions, not just about the participants, but about ourselves. Because the truth is, McKamey Manor wouldn't exist if there wasn't an audience for it. Videos of people screaming, crying, and begging for mercy get millions of views online. People watch, react, debate, and in some twisted way that fuels the cycle. It's a reflection of how desensitized we've become, how we crave stronger, darker, more extreme content just to feel something. The same culture that made horror icons out of killers on screen is now fascinated by real pain, real fear, real suffering, as long as it's behind a screen or hidden behind the word experience. McKamey Manor isn't just one man's obsession with fear, it's a mirror held up to a society that can't stop watching. And just like that, we're back where we started, haunted houses. The fake screams, the jump scares, the laughter that follows once the lights come back on. But McKamey Manor isn't one of those. It doesn't rely on ghosts, monsters, or actors in masks. The terror there is real. The fear, the pain, the panic, all of it comes from the simple fact that someone wants you to break. It's not a movie set or a Halloween attraction anymore. It's a place where control and cruelty blur into something darker. Where fear isn't simulated, it's engineered. And maybe that's the most disturbing part, because you don't need monsters to make nightmares real. Sometimes all it takes is one person who enjoys watching others suffer and a world willing to look the other way. Even now, petitions circulate online to shut McKamey Manor down. Survivors share stories, critics demand justice, and thrill seekers still sign up for their shot at the impossible $20,000 prize. So as the credits roll, the question lingers: are we watching a horror story unfold, or are we helping them write it? Like, follow, and subscribe.